Record. All right. Good evening, Arrows Out. I am so excited to kick off this Monday night call with a familiar face and maybe not so familiar story. My sponsor, the reason that all of us are really here, my friend Emily Finnell is the girl that's responsible for introducing me to Plexus and thus all of you too. But I know that sometimes we haven't heard, for some of us, haven't heard Emily's story and kind of what brought her to Plexus, what has brought her success in this journey. She has been incredibly successful, reaching the top rank of Plexus in a short time and coming from being a special ed teacher to top rank in a network marketing company. Kind of have to wonder, how did that happen? So I am super excited for Emily to join us tonight and tell a little bit about her story and secrets that she's found along the way. So Emily, take it over.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's funny when you say it that way, from special ed teacher to a leader in a network marketing company. How the heck did that happen? So I'm going to tell my story tonight. I'm going to tell it pretending that none of you guys have ever heard it before. And those of you who have heard it before, I'll probably say something that you didn't know. So I'm going to start back with January 2014 is actually when my story started. It was a time in my life where I was a special education teacher, teaching full-time. I had two little ones at home. Trying to think kind of where in the timeline that is with the adoption. We had just gone through an adoption, I guess the year before that. And we were pretty strapped for cash. I had done network marketing before and what I perceived as failed at it. So it really was not something that was on my radar that I ever wanted to do again. I worked really hard and I felt like it was only the people at the top made money, and I didn't see myself ever getting to the top of a company. So anyway, I kind of written that off. And then the weirdest thing happened. One of my good friends, Tiffany, posted on Facebook about this Plexus thing. And I remember my initial reaction was that her account had been like spammed, like somebody, it was like a spam thing. And I almost thought to reach out to her and be like, oh no, like you've been spammed. And then I realized it was actually her posting it. And there were some whispers, like I reached out to some of my friends and I was like, what was that? And they were like, I don't know, that was weird. And the next day she did it again. And then she did it again. So every day she was kind of posting, sharing about these products that she was really excited about. And I think it bubbled up inside of me feelings of kind of like resentment or I don't know. It sounds horrible to say, but like, I just felt like, wait, no, you're not really going to do network marketing. You can't, because you can't be successful, because I wasn't successful and no one's successful. And so anyway, that happened back in January. And she tried to share with me a few times, but guys, I was like that friend that's like, the door is closed. Like, I'm not interested. Don't talk to me about it. Like, I'm just gonna be honest. Don't talk to me about it. And I really want you to hear that part of my story, because some of you might be experiencing that with some of your friends right now. And I think that's pretty powerful to say that that's where I was. And now here I sit as a diamond in the company. So anyway, that all happened. And then my best friend, Stacy, started to kind of like saying like, hey, Tiffany's doing really well with this. Like, what if it's real? And I, again, not interested. And then Stacy, who had been struggling for years with chronic sinus infections, her doctor told her to get on a probiotic. And she thought, well, why not just buy it from Tiffany and at least try out the probiotic? So she did. And very quickly, her health changed drastically. She went from 1 to 2 sinus infections every month. So she was almost constantly on antibiotics. And I was like the natural crunchy friend trying to help her in every way I could. I had her on all these different products trying to help her. I mean, for years we went through this. And as soon as she got on the probiotic, it cleared up. She stopped getting sick. And she tried to tell me and I wouldn't listen. And then, so it was in April that Stacy officially joined as an ambassador, just get the deepest discount. And I remember one day I was at Stacy's house and she got a text from Tiffany about, it was convention. So that was at the beginning of June, I guess, when we usually have convention. And she had texted her about the new children's vitamin that she was excited about and all this stuff. And I remember looking at Stacy's phone and seeing the text come through. And Stacy was in the other room and I said, "Are you doing like Plexus? Like, are you doing the business?" And she's like, "No, no, 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 no." And anyway, she was actually afraid of my reaction. She didn't want to even tell me that she was toying with the idea, and she and her husband had been having these conversations of what if, with the business side, because I want you guys to hear that's how negative I was. I was literally like shutting everyone else down. I didn't want them to do it. So then Stacy and Tiffany came to me and kind of told me that Stacy was going to start doing the business. And I just kind of rolled my eyes. I'm like, whatever, do it. It's not going to work. I've done that. It's not going to work. And the day that Stacy made her first post on Facebook, I was sitting, I remember it. I remember this like feeling in my gut, like, oh my gosh, like she's going to do this now. And I saw her post and I saw people like it. And I called her and I was like, I can't believe you did it. Like, what's going to happen? Has anybody private messaged you? She's like, actually, yeah, a couple of people already have. Like, this is crazy, Emily. Like, you really should think about it. So anyway, that day was like a really big aha moment. It was more of a like punch in the gut. It felt like all of these arrows in my life were pointing toward Plexus, but it was the one thing that I was pushing away. Seems to be a common theme in my life. A lot of times I think God's plan is the one thing I'm pushing away because it's scary, right? It seemed out of my comfort zone, and I was fearful of what people would think and all of those things. And so I think it finally had to hit a point where it became blatantly obvious, and it was like on a silver platter. And that's basically what happened. I was supposed to have a play date with Tiffany, and we were supposed to meet at a gymnasium where the boys can all play basketball and we can sit and chat and whatever. And I'm still at a point where I don't want to talk about Plexus at all. And, but in the background, I have to tell you what was happening. My husband was struggling with his weight. Like, he was in a really, really big funk. None of his clothes were fitting. He was doing all the right things. He was working out 5 to 7 days a week. He was eating healthy. We've always been healthy eaters. So it was just a really big struggle for him. On top of that, the biggest project he'd ever had as a small firm, he's an architect. He owned a small firm at the time, and his client refused to pay. And we didn't have the money to sue them to pay. Like, it was this huge, just a horrible mess. And we were terrified. We didn't know what the future held for us, for our financial future. I was doing all I could as a special ed teacher, but it's not really making the big bucks. And we had also just gone through this adoption, and there was a lot of stressors involved with that, including the financial part that we'd had to take a big loan out for the adoption. So anyway, all of those things had kind of were weighing on me at this time. And I go to the basketball court where we're supposed to meet, and it's filled with people. It was the weirdest thing, you guys. It still doesn't make sense to me because it was like a random Thursday at like 2:00 in the afternoon and the basketball courts are filled. So I remember texting Tiffany and being like, hey, there's all these people here. Like, the kids can't play. What should we do? And she's like, she texts back, why don't you just come over here? And this is how, you have to get yourself in the mindset. I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to go to her house. She's going to try to talk to me about Plexus. Like, that's honestly how I felt. So, but again, I needed a break. The kids were excited about a play date. So I said, okay, I'm coming over. So I brought the boys over, and the kids run back in their playroom to play, and I sit on our couch, and I just started crying. I just said, Tiffany, I'm so stressed out. Like, and I know what you're going to say, and I don't want to hear it. Like, we're stressed out about money right now, like crazy. And Dan is really struggling with his weight. Like, you guys, it was like, I just wanted to talk to a friend, and I didn't want to hear about Plexus. And she looked at me and she was like, she didn't have to say it. I knew. And it was this unspoken thing. And I remember saying to her, okay, will you just make me a stupid pink drink if we're going to talk about this? And she did. She made me a pink drink and she brought it in. And we sat on the couch and I, for the first time, opened my heart and my mind to what she had to tell me about Plexus. And that day, she told me everything. She showed me a product catalog, and we talked about the history that it started as a preventative health, that we were always in preventative health with Plexus, started with breast health. She told me about the breast check kit. All of those things were kind of like, it was shedding this light on something that I had put in a box, and it didn't fit in the box that I had put it in at all. Like, these products were not what I thought they were. This business was not what I thought it was. She told me two very impactful things that day. One, that her friend Blair that I knew had made $10,000 in a month doing this. That number, for some reason, just hit me like a ton of bricks, because I remember thinking what $10,000 would do for my family and how it would change our entire lives. And the second thing she told me is you have to have 100 PV going through your website every month to be qualified. So just for those of you that might be a little bit newer and are still trying to wrap your heads around that, for me, that was a huge light bulb moment, because in my old company, you had to have 2,000 PV to be qualified. So that means you had to have, So those of you who have been in Plexus for a while, you're like, wait, what? So that was your goal, was to have 2,000 PV. That made you qualified. And now Tiffany's telling me 100 PV is qualified. And I looked at our comp plan. She explained it really quickly. I mean, she went over it, fast. But because I had been in network marketing before, I think I grasped onto things that most people wouldn't. And then the strangest thing happened. There was a knock at her door. So I'm like, and she's like, oh, hold on. And she opens the door and Stacy walks in. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? Like, Stacy had been sitting in her car in the front yard as soon as she found out I was coming over, and was waiting for Tiffany to give her the heads up, or the thumbs up to come. So I basically was, it was an intervention. And the three of us sat down together and we started dreaming. We started saying, what if? Like, I remember pointing at Emerald on that compensation plan and being like, what if we all did this, you guys? What if we did this? What if we made it to that point? And we did some important things that day. We number one, we kind of created this bond of, we're not going to quit. Like, let's do this, but we're not going to quit on each other. So we had that accountability group immediately, right? And then we dreamed, and we didn't just dream in our minds, we dreamed out loud. We talked to each other about what this would be for us and how it would feel, and how it would change everything. And that day, I can quite certainly tell you, changed my entire life, because I walked away with a brochure, and sweet Tiffany, she had extra products. She gave me a full triplex to start on Dan, because I couldn't even afford the products at the time. I bought a welcome pack using my money from my old network marketing company, because I still had residual income from them. That's a part of my story not many people know. But I literally had zero money in my bank account, but I still had that residual income coming in from that other company that I hadn't touched in years. And so I bought the welcome pack, but she went ahead and gave me a triplex to start on Dan, because we were actually headed out of town that afternoon. And another part of my story that's really funny that not many people know, I probably shouldn't even tell this because it's so weird, but we went to Austin with my parents that weekend, and the entire way in the car, I was like nonstop talking about Plexus. And my parents were like, shut up. Oh, but here she goes again. And when we're on this trip in Austin, Dan and I were joking about how Plexus was going to change our lives. And it was almost a joke at that time. I was serious, but I feel like he was kind of like, it's so cute. She thinks this is going to work. And we bought, I don't know if you guys know what a money tree is, but we bought a money tree on the trip. And Nicole, I think you know this story. Anyway, we bought this little money tree. Oh, it's downstairs. I wish I could show it to you. But Google a money tree if you don't know what it looks like. They're just like a little house plant kind of a thing, but they're really cute. They've got
Carrie's saying she has one.
Oh, really?
Carrie's
yeah.
saying she has one. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about then. Yeah, they're cute. And so anyway, we bought that, and we jokingly said it's our money tree. Plexus is going to be our money tree. I'm sorry, I'm putting my hair back because it's driving me crazy. And you guys, that tree has flourished. It is the biggest money tree I've ever seen in my. I mean, it's like huge, and it's just. We used to joke that every time I had a new leg sprout, it would like sprout a new leg. I mean, or a new branch. Like Nicole's seen it. It's ginormous and it's healthy. And I swear, Dan and I swear that like it ebbs and flows with my business. Like when things are like rocky, we're like, oh, what's going on? We need to make sure we're taking care of the money tree. It's just, now it's kind of a joke. But anyway, random part of my story. So when I think back to kind of where I was at the beginning, it was not always rainbows and unicorns. Like, yes, I had accountability partners. Yes, we were going to do this until we made it to the top as a team, me and Tiffany and Stacy. But at the beginning, there was definitely some questioning there, right? You get that excitement, you're ready to go, and then you get on the roller coaster, and roller coasters go up and down. And when things were great, they were great. But when they weren't so great, they were like questioning, like, wait, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't know if it's going to work. Like, and I remember having those conversations with myself, usually on the way to school. In the mornings, I leave really early in the mornings, be driving to work, and really be having those conversations out loud. Like, am I going to do this or not? And if I am, when am I going to find the time to do it? Why am I going to make this a priority? And what is it going to look like? And those conversations, I remember having that like, it was right before I went gold, I think. Having that, like, am I going to do this or not? Because I was kind of dabbling in it. I was being consistent about posting, but my IPA wasn't really where it should be. And I was going through this stuff. And anyway, I remember drawing my line in the sand again. And that was right before I went gold. Once I went gold, everything just started happening. And I always say it's like popcorn. Like, and people have said this analogy before, but I remember thinking it through at that time. Like, you put the popcorn in the microwave, and you put the 3 minutes or whatever, you push the popcorn button, you have to wait. But once it starts going, they start popping. And that's exactly what happened with my business. It was like, I had to put it in the microwave, and I had to keep the heat on, I had to keep it on. And then it started popping. Once they started popping, it really started going. So I kind of took some notes about what I did right. What did I do right in my journey? First of all, I drew my line in the sand. And when I did, once I made that commitment to myself and to my two best friends, there was no going back. Every Sunday we had our meetings. Me and Tiffany and Stacey said we had to meet about Plexus. That was even at the beginning. We jokingly say now that we really did pretend like we had this big team before we did. We pretended like we were leaders before we had anyone to lead. But we also just wanted to get together on Sunday and drink wine without the children. And that was like our big thing. Our husbands had to take the kids, and we would go meet up at the country club and get a glass of wine. And sometimes we just sat there and talked, but it always came back around to, okay, no, what are we doing? Like, what's our game plan? What are we doing this week for our business? So anyway, drawing that line in the sand was huge, but also I had a very strong why. And to me, it's the strongest why. To want to be home with your children I feel like as a mother, you will run through a brick wall. I mean, you'll do what you have to do to get home with your kids. And so that was a really strong why. And if you don't have a strong why, and if your life circumstances are totally different than mine were, if, staying at home mom is not something you want to do, or not something, or something you already have, or whatever, then I challenge you to really find a strong why, because that was another thing that I think had ultimately led to my success. Now, once I hit that point with a strong why, with my line in the sand, I had this perfect space of like not caring when people told me no. When I tell my story, I always talk about that Tiffany, it didn't bother her how negative I was. I always say it was like water off a duck's back. When I was negative, when I rolled my eyes, when I said I don't want to talk about Plexus, she kept going. And I watched her do that, and I think that was great modeling for her to do that. But on the flip side, I knew how it felt to be the negative one. I knew how it felt to be the one rolling my eyes. So I think that for some reason, like, made it so I didn't get my feelings hurt as much. Didn't bother me when people told me no, because I never heard no. I always heard not now, because I thought back to my own experience, and I was just like, okay, that's where they are. That's cool. Like, it didn't hurt my feelings. In fact, my husband and I were just having this conversation today about, he's trying to think about doing the business, and he basically got his feelings hurt. He told me that he sat down, months or years ago with a friend for lunch and told him about the business and was really excited. And his friend said, "It's great for you. Glad you and Emily are excited about it. Not for me." And that crushed Dan. He's like, I couldn't talk to him again. I said, okay, I want you to think about something. That same conversation happened between me and Allison, my sister-in-law. That same conversation happened between me and Jacqueline Stanley. The only difference is you stopped and I didn't. And that was like a big, aha moment for him. He realized that I had been told no by I could say every single one of the leaders on my team told me no, including Nicole. They told me no, but I didn't take them off the plate, I didn't take them off my radar because of that. I just thought, okay, that's where they are. It's cool. Give them a few more months and I'll touch back base with them again. So anyway, that was a big thing, is just letting loose of that. And I never felt entitled to anything from so I joined under Tiffany and Stacy, and the three of us, we didn't have a whole lot of leadership above us, because above us, Blair had some life circumstances going on and she was in a different place. Melissa Darby, I didn't know her at all until I went to Leaders Retreat my first year. So Tiffany and Stacey and I kind of just decided that we didn't need help. We were going to do this and we were going to do it our way. And we were very resourceful. I mean, we had team pages to go from, but I feel like we just kind of made up our own rules, and we didn't need much. And I think that in a way that helped us become the leaders we are today. It's kind of like jumping in the deep end, we didn't have floaties. We didn't walk into the pool. We didn't have people helping us. We didn't have accountability calls. We didn't have all these things. But we were creative and we saw needs. We thought, okay, we need to make sure that when people join us, we know them. So we started welcome calls. It was like we found the needs and then we made up our own way to meet those needs. And all of those experiences we had, I think, made us stronger leaders and stronger ambassadors. And that personal growth was fast forward. Another thing I did right in the beginning was include what we call shareholders. And that is a Carrie Wilkerson thing, who's a Plexus speaker. But basically, it's including your spouse and your family in your journey, and making your goals that you have with Plexus family goals and not just your goals. I spent time not really going over the compensation plan. Here's another secret. My husband doesn't even know, that he doesn't understand how we make money in Plexus. He still doesn't get it. It's fine. It's just not his thing. But he understood that this was important to me, that I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And we looked at the comp plan and he said, Senior Ruby, when you're Senior Ruby, you can quit your job. So, he at least knew that part. And he also was invested enough that when I had phone calls in the evenings and he had to take over on bedtime, he was happy to do it, because he saw, I don't think even back before he really saw the vision of me really being successful, he saw that it was making me happy. He saw that I was feeling fulfilled by something. He saw that personal growth, and he just wanted to help me grow in that way, regardless of the financial outcome of it. Does that make sense? And I think that was a big part of my success, was having that supportive husband, but really being able to have those conversations with him about how I appreciated his support and what his support looks like. So it wasn't an unknown thing or a frustrating thing on his part. He wanted to do it. I was very blessed this past weekend to spend some one-on-one time with Jen Hawkins. And if you guys don't know who that is, she is one of 2 double diamonds in our company. She happens to also be our way, way, way upline. I think I'm like her level 7. But I spent the night at her amazing home. They built their dream house out in these like rolling hills in Tennessee, just gorgeous, like amazing. And anyway, it was incredible for me to sit down and talk to her about her journey. She's been in Plexus for almost 6 years now. And like I said, she's a double diamond. And she said some very impactful things. And one of them I wanted to mention to you, she said that, when she and Cody looked at the compensation plan, they thought it was realistic that she could be Emerald in 5 years if she really worked hard at this. And her goal was to make $1,000 a month. That was what she needed to be able to stay home with her children. And it's so funny to hear from her now as one of the top earners in the entire company, one of 2 double diamonds. And just to think that her mindset was 5 years to Emerald. And she didn't understand momentum yet. She was explaining that, but she said, one of the things that I'm worried that people have lost is that feeling of accomplishment with making $500 a month, $200 a month, $1,000 a month, whatever it is. She told me that she has one of her very first ambassadors is a Ruby ambassador and has been for years. And she said, she's the happiest ambassador on my team. She said she just feels so blessed. Every month she feels so blessed for that paycheck. And she's like, I think one day she will be a diamond, but she's not in a rush to do it. She's just constantly in a state of gratitude. And she said, that's how I want to be. And she said, I feel like if I still made $1,000 a month, I would still be doing everything that I'm doing right now. And I just thought that was such a great perspective and great insight on the kind of person that Jen is. It was just really, I don't know, powerful to me. So being realistic on the timeline, she shared with me that she felt like it makes her sad to see people too focused on being a jewel or being a diamond and not really appreciating where they are and how far they've come. So that was just a kind of a cool thing that we had talked about. And she and I really talked about some of these secrets to success. And it's funny, I said one thing to her that, like, when you're saying something, you're like, well, that was awesome. Like, that was one of those moments, right? And so anyway, I wrote it down with you, or I wanted to share it with you guys. She was saying, how does someone who is, and she was asking me this question, how is somebody who is not even a silver or maybe a silver ambassador speak to somebody who has the potential of like being a rock star? Like, how do they speak with the authority of, of somebody who's really able to have the success? So I guess she was saying, like, okay, we're diamonds. We can say, like, we can go after somebody and say, hey, this is real. But how does a silver do that? And I told her, I said, it's all about your presence, right? Your energy when you're sharing. And a confident, I don't care if you're silver, gold, senior ambassador, it doesn't matter. As long as you're confident and excited when you come to that person, that's what they hear. They don't need you to be a diamond. But what I said was, the issue is when people make it about that person make it about themselves instead of that person. Because, okay, if you are sharing with excitement, it's about them. But if you're sharing with any hesitancy at all, it's about you. Because you're scared because it's all in your head and you're afraid what they think of you. It's about you. So if you're thinking about them, then you've got to be nothing but excited because you know what these products can do, right? You know what this business opportunity is. So if you truly are sharing and it's about them, then you should have no fear and you should be totally excited. And so that was a good, it was kind of an aha moment for both of us. She was like, oh my gosh, you're so right. It was like, that's your gauge. Like, if you're feeling nervous, then I'm going to guarantee you're thinking about yourself because you're not nervous. You know these products, you know this business. So I don't know. I just thought that was a really cool way to think about it. And also a really good way to take your own temperature when you're reaching out to people. And also the key to success she and I were talking a lot about is internalizing the opportunity, helping people see that they can be successful, helping people see that this is not like a pipe dream, like this is legit real. And having them, Nicole knows this, I talk about permission to dream, but having them really think through, what if I made an extra $500 a month? Like, where would that go in my budget? And have them really, really internalize that and make it feel real. Anyway, so that was kind of what I had. I really want each and every one of you guys to know on this call that this is real. Like, you can do this. You heard me. I was a freaking hot mess. I was like negative Nancy. And with my mindset change and with that focus and a strong why, I have grown into the person that you hear talking right now, because this was not Emily 4 years ago. Like, Nicole can tell you, this was not Emily in college. Like, this business has this amazing ability to grow you into, I think, the person that the Lord wanted you to be. Like, these internal strengths that you have, that you're able to really hone in and learn from and get better at. And I don't know, I just think it's so cool, but you have to allow yourself there. One last thing, I don't know if I want to get into this because I also have notes for tomorrow for my live, but it's all about just that, putting yourself and the energy and the excitement place instead of the overthinking, fearful, hesitant place. And if you can learn that skill, and again, learn the skill about making it about them and have that steadfast belief in this business and these products, you got it. It's going to happen. There's no question in my mind it will happen. So I just want you to know that every single one of you can do this. All right. Do you guys have questions?
Hey, I would love to hear some questions. Who has questions? I think we've had some comments that I think that enjoying the journey, that perspective of coming from a state of gratitude, we've seen such great success, and I think we are spoiled by this awesome compensation plan where at first we start off from this place of, no, that's not possible, this doesn't happen in network marketing, and then we start seeing those paychecks and the rank advancements, and then we start getting like, whoa, okay, let's want more and more and more. That gratitude piece, I think, is really something, a great reminder. Who has questions? I can unmute you. You can unmute yourself. What do you have? I'm going to call on you, Blue.
I got it. I'll ask one. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey, Kelly.
Okay. Hi, Emily. Okay, so when people tell you no, like, that's the part I struggle with, or not now or whatever. Like, when and how do you come in at a different angle? Like, like, let's just say yesterday I sent out like 10 messages with the magic message post, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. And several people have came back and are like, no, it's not for me. Or, I sent a message actually to Nicole as one of my cousins. She was like, I eat really clean. I'm like, consider the Energized Bunny. Like, she was like very respectful to me, but how, in like a couple months from now, like, how did you go back to Jacqueline Stanley? Like, how did you go back to these people with a different message? Like, where did you come in at them at a different angle? That's the part I struggle with. Whoops.
Are we there? Are you there, Emily? I'm having some stability issues, it appears.
She's thinking really hard.
She is. I love it. Okay. Well, we know she's here. Oh, funny. I love technology. It's fabulous. I think, and even in looking at some of, I've seen some of Emily's messages. Oh, here she is. She's back.
Maybe
she's back. Maybe. Thanks, guys, for your patience. Gotta love technology.
Is it better? Is it better?
Yay!
You guys, I'm so sorry. That was totally my computer. But Kelly, I heard your question. Like, basically, how do you come back after they've said no or shot you down or whatever? So my favorite line is, and I think this needs to be done prayerfully, because I don't think it should be a just a line, you know? But I really think if you're getting that heart nudge about somebody, like if you're, you know what I'm talking about, that nudge to like, oh, gotta reach out again. I'm very transparent about that. And I say, hey, I keep thinking about you. And this is why, you know, and people who are like the healthy ones that already know it all, that don't need this, just probing a little bit about like, what is their knowledge base of things like probiotics and the microbiome? Like, do they have it? Do they understand that stuff yet? If they do, then, you know, can I explain to you a little bit about why this one's different than what you could buy at the store? You know, I think it just has to be a natural like conversation versus like, and okay, so this is probably the best way to answer this. If I'm afraid that they're thinking something, I say it. So let's say your cousin's like, yeah, no thanks, not into it. I already do this and this and this. And you're like, okay, if I come back to her now, she's going to think I'm just trying to sell her something. Right? So you literally say, hey, Nicole, I don't want you to think I'm trying to sell you something. Like, I want you to hear my heart, you know? And I don't know, for me, whenever I say what I'm afraid they're thinking, it like puts it out on the table and that fear goes away. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think so too.
And
I mean, I think it probably has to be like the relationship you have with the people too. Like, obviously a cousin, I'm not going to be as, you know, I'm going to be more inclined to be like, hey, you know, like what you just said. But like, for example, a high school friend, they bluntly told me no, then yes, if I came back at them again without putting that message out there, they'd probably be like, seriously, stop. I don't want any of your products. Stop trying to sell to me, kind of thing. You know what I mean? But if you do say it that way, I think that's a great way to phrase it.
Yeah, that helped me a lot. And when I look back at my message with Jacqueline, I posted those somewhere. Did you guys ever see those? Nicole did. They were very bold.
They're on Pink Freedom, weren't they, I think?
Yeah, they're out there somewhere. Screenshotted all of it, put it out there. But yeah, I mean, I was very bold, but I was just like, dude, you got to listen to me. Like, I just keep thinking about you. And I was the same with Jessica Radke. Like, I just kept thinking about her, you know? There's just certain people that I just think, and I've got one that I'm talking to right now that I'm like, dude, I've been thinking about you for years. Like, I get that you're, I want to know what holds you back. That's another thing. Like, if they, you know, at least your cousin explained it to you, kind of where she is. But a lot of times when people say no, my reaction is to be like, okay, like, tell me what's holding you back. Like, tell me what, because again, where I was, what I thought, the box I put Plexus in was so off base from what it really was. So yeah, getting those objections out on the table and talking them through helps.
Perfect. Thank you.
What other questions do we have? Any other questions? Don't be shy. I know you guys. All right, Emily, what do you think is your, what was the biggest mistake you ever made? We talked a lot about what you did right.
Oh, man.
One thing that you wish you would have done that you didn't early on.
Oh my gosh, I have to think about that one.
Or one of the biggest mistakes you see ambassadors make.
Probably the most frustrating thing to me is when people say the right things, but then they don't have the action behind it. You know, I talk to people all the time who are like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this and this and this. And I'm, you know, like they say everything, but it's almost like they're saying it just to like make me say good job. Like, you know, like, but there's no action behind it. There's no accountability to like actually following through with those things. And to me, almost all the time that leads to a why that's not driving them past their fears. And it just makes them feel warm and fuzzy to say all the right things. And I see that a lot. And it's funny when you see people break through that finally and start to realize that it's really, they need to do the things. So there's that. I'm trying to think. I mean, I know I've made plenty of mistakes. I'm trying to think. I think, unfortunately, my personality, I don't know if it's my personality, but I'm not very organized. And I think that people slip through the cracks. In fact, one girl that was like on my dream team list that I just, my original dream team list way back in the day, I just, like she just fell through the cracks. She told me no a couple times and she ignored me or whatever. And I never reached back out to her again. And it was funny because I was driving through St. Louis and she lives in St. Louis. And I reached out to her and was just like, hey, do you still live in St. Louis? And she wrote back and was like, I do. Like, I would love to get together. And I'm like, oh man, I looked back at the messages. I'm like, I haven't talked to this girl in like 3 years. Like maybe I should have like kept her on my list and kept following. So anyway, being organized is one of the things I wish that I was better at. But I'm finally finding some solutions that whiteboards help. Putting up a whiteboard in my office and just really those lists of names and having them in front of me, I think will help versus just scrolling through my messenger.
Awesome tips. Oh, Terry has a question. Sorry. Terry, let me unmute you.
There she is.
Terry.
Okay. Hey, I'm finally getting the hang of this. It's like, oh God, what am I going to do? I can get ambassadors, but any tips on how I can motivate them to get ambassadors? Does that make Does that make sense? It's like I've got these people and because of my age, we're 50 and older. So when you're talking to somebody, is there a different way that you do to somebody on our side of the 50 as opposed to on your side of the 50?
I don't know if it's an age thing. It's a
needs. What they need basically is the needs are different.
Yeah. You mean product side or business side?
Both. Ooh, I really threw you out there, huh? But both.
Well, no, I feel like my mother she's a little older than that, but she has this this weird perception that like these products are just for people in their 30s. And I'm like, I'm sorry, have you seen our product line? Like it is made for your age group, like it's the aches and pains, the like inflammation in your body, the microbiome, like this is all for that age group. So having them see that, but also having them see that it can be real. So going back to that, like internalizing the idea that they could be successful. That is I feel like there's almost an art to it. It's like you have to really, and it comes down to really questioning them. Like, again, what's holding you back? Like, do you see that you can make some extra money? And also meeting them where they are. So a lot of people get kind of freaked out if they're like, oh no, I don't want to be a jewel. I don't want to, I don't want to do all that stuff. But what about an extra $250, $300 a month, $500 a month? Like, how does that sound? Would that be something you're at least interested in hearing a little bit more about? To me, it's like baby steps. You can't come at them with too much information. It's like people can internalize the idea of $500 a month. And most people in their 50s would absolutely appreciate an extra $500 a month, right? So having them just like grasp onto something like that, and then having them understand, why it would be good for them to share with a couple friends, or and those of you who've ever been on a welcome call with me, I really push I would say almost 90% of welcome calls, people say the same things, and they always say, I want to make sure that I'm trying the products before I share them or whatever. And when people say that to me, I'm like, oh, I totally hear you. And I agree. What I've seen though, and being in the business as long as I have, is that when you start sharing and tell people that you're doing it, or that you're trying Plexus and you're excited to give it a try, two things happen. Number one, almost everybody you talk to says, okay, well, if it works for me, let me know, right? Or it works for you, let me know, right?
Sorry, my husband's phone's going off. It's my dad calling.
Nice.
Oh, go one more time. It's too far away for me to get up.
You're fine.
I love it.
So it's going to help them, or it's going to at least plant the seed in all of your friends and family's minds, right? The other thing is it's going to make you be accountable to taking your products and being consistent with them. Because that's the other piece of it. With your newer ambassadors, that consistency in taking their products is imperative. So making sure that they're doing that, as well as throwing it out there, because what happens a lot of times is they're shocked that their friends are so interested, but they'll never know if they wait until they have this big story or whatever, they get in their head about it. So now who are you directly under?
Kelly.
Okay, so I was going to say welcome calls also. Making sure you're doing, even if they're just signing up to get the deep discount, the wholesale ambassadors, getting them on that call. And Kelly, like even if it's just about the products or whatever, getting them started, but starting to plant some of those seeds in their minds of like, hey, you can make an extra $500 a month. We would love to help you do that if that's something you want to do. Again, there's never pressure. It's just helping you. I don't know. Am I answering your question? I feel like I'm just.
Yeah, it's just, I think they're just at such a different lot. I'm running into, well, it doesn't matter. I'm going to pay for my product anyway. I don't need to make the extra money.
Okay.
That's what I run into. But they want the wholesale prices. So I have all these little happy ambassadors, but nobody's continuing on. I only have one or two twos, where everybody else is a one.
Okay. Well, and another thing to that is, so I have an ambassador, a level 1, who she was the queen of PV. I mean, this girl had so many customers. Nobody wanted to do the business. She started to finally switch them over to wholesale ambassadors, but it was the same for her. Her network just had enough money. They didn't need the extra money, and so they just wanted nothing to do with it. And what she found was that it was just it was ultimately a like timing thing. Like it just took time, prayer and time. And there are those people in your network who need this and who want this and who are up at night praying and, for help with financial situations. And they will come. It just takes time. So I think the best advice to you is just keep going. Like you will find those people. And your wholesalers also, what I love is when they're added to team pages and stuff, is they start to see that because if money doesn't drive them, if they don't need the money, they might need the relationships or the sense of community or there's so many other things. And also take note if they are experiencing whatever they are experiencing with their products, and start asking questions like when you say like, hey, like how are your products going? And they say something like, I'm noticing I'm sleeping better. You can ask something like, do you know anybody else who, any of your friends or anybody in your network who has struggled sleeping? Like, really have them hone in on that like yellow side, that the people who just want to help other people, and have them see that these products can help people.
I think I need to do that more, because I ask them. I get in touch with everybody at least once a week, make sure everybody's doing okay. I'm a lot of hand holding, and I want them there. I want them happy. I don't want them feeling abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I do that. I need to say, well, hey, you're doing so good. What about so-and-so? That's great. I haven't thought about us pushing it like that.
And there's an ambassador who says, I think it's All My Darling, who always says to her customers, she says something about like how these products help with X, Y, or Z. And then she always looks at him and says, I bet you know someone. And then she just stops. And she like lets them like, wait, I do know someone, you know, like she just lets them start to process that and starts to think in that direction.
Oh, I may
So
have
I
to
like
steal
that. And Sarah Marble does that too. I spoke with Sarah Marble once and she said, Nicole, you were there. Do you remember when she said that? And she kept saying throughout the whole time she'd speak, she'd say, and I know you're already thinking of people. I know you're already thinking of people. And I like that, just that coming from that side of, I know you're thinking. I know you already probably have a list in your head of friends that you know or that struggle with, you know, this also or whatever.
And you catch yourself making that list too, and then you're like, dang you, Sarah, you did it to me too. Like, I fell for it.
Thank you very, very much.
Yeah.
I have things to percolate in my head now.
I know, right?
Got to get my purse out.
I feel like
Any
that was
other
like
quick questions before we let Emily go? I know we've kept her a while here tonight.
you guys are fine.
Thank you, Emily. We appreciate the time and I appreciate all of you who've jumped on. I will have this recording in our team page, so feel free to share that.